today, the new IRS chief, Danny Werfel, responding to the credit card abuse report. In a statement, Werfel saying, in part, "We're following up on several inappropriate incidents mentioned in the report, ranging from internal actions to criminal charges." That said, more than 99.75% of IRS purchases adhered to the rules. Representative Michele Bachmann joins us, and a former tax lawyer, I might add, as well. But didn't work for the IRS, right?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
Wow. I did.
Well, then you know the inside scoop. All right, so what do you think?
Well, that's why when the scandal came out about $2.4 million on a lavish conference, let me tell you about one conference I went to when I was an IRS lawyer. It was in Florida, and it was in August. It was in cinder block buildings. There was no air conditioning. There were no frills. My, how times have changed. That would have been back in the late 80s and in the early 90s. It's a very different culture, obviously, over there now.
Don't you think this is just, you know, I actually think this is stealing from the American people, and I hate to use the word stealing when it's harsh, but I mean, what in the world gives them the right to take this money? Most Americans are struggling to put food on the table, and these people are having celebrity chefs and lavish, and are getting continuing legal education. These are the lawyers.
And you have employees that are taking a government credit card, and they know what they're doing, and they're putting purchases on a government credit card for wine, for pornography. Anybody knows that's wrong. That's why, yes, we are into the realm of criminal. And remember, these are the enforcers of the law who are breaking the law. They're the ones who hold you liable and me liable, and a lot of your viewers may not realize this, but the legal standard for the IRS is that we are considered guilty until we prove ourselves innocent. That's completely different than any other area of the law. But when it comes to the IRS, the taxpayer is guilty until they prove themselves innocent.
And if
stunning.
you have a dispute with the IRS,
and that's what it is today.
And if you have a dispute with the IRS, you must pay the money to the IRS before you can
litigate.
Then you litigate, yeah.
And then
you've got to hope that if you win, that the IRS will actually give you the money back that you that they wrongfully took from you.
That's right. And when the IRS issues what's called a statutory notice of deficiency, when you get that letter in the mail, it has penalties on it, and it has interest on it, and it goes back to the year of the problem. So it isn't just the tax you owe, it's penalties, it's interest, and it's an enormous amount of money. And remember, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent.
All right. This number that he said that something Werfel claims that 99.75% of the spending adhered to the rules. A couple things. Number one is they create the rules, so of course it's going to adhere to the rules. Secondly is they tell us that because they investigate themselves, because the Justice Department has been sitting on its hands, they're not being investigated. Thirdly is that why they need rules to know that any of this behavior is deplorable and beyond any possible part of, you know, that the American people would allow is just beyond me. But even the 99.75%, all these people who work at the IRS, including the woman who testified today, Tucker, the ones who know about it, and they're in position of management, supervisory, they do nothing. Zero. They look the other way.
And imagine if you as a taxpayer got the statutory notice of deficiency, and 99.7% of what you did on your tax return was right, but you had that 0.3% where you falsified deductions on your tax return. The IRS wouldn't be looking the other way, and the American people aren't going to look the other way with the IRS, because now this is a culture. We heard the phrase culture of corruption. Now there's a culture, apparently a permissible culture.
Is it time for a special prosecutor who can go to a grand jury, present evidence? I mean, you've got Capitol Hill looking at it now, providing oversight, but frankly, a lot of this stuff happened during the oversight period and wasn't particularly effective oversight, or we wouldn't have this problem. And number two, you have a Justice Department that's done nothing, and this keeps going on. Time for a special prosecutor?
Time for the IRS to be held accountable. There are criminal actions, and that's why this needs to be dealt with.
Who should do that? A special prosecutor, or do you trust Eric Holder to do this?
No one trusts Eric Holder. I've called for Eric Holder's resignation. No one trusts him.
So are you calling for a special prosecutor?
I just want to underscore how frightening it is when we can't trust our own attorney general, that we have to look to a special prosecutor.
So special prosecutor?
This is a frightening time. Special
prosecutor?
It could be, but remember, the special prosecutor also comes through the executive.
So it
doesn't give us. The problem is, Greta, we are in a profoundly different world right now, where we have very low level of trust with this government. Just at the same time that we are expanding in a breathtaking way the area of jurisdiction of the IRS. That's why something very bold needs to be done with the IRS. I say abolish it. I say you start over.
That's another consideration, but I think we hold people accountable who have done.
Absolutely, 100%.
All right.
Total agreement.
Representative, nice to see you.
Good to see you.